On 11th of July 2022, the Reserve Bank of India made a very bold announcement whereby domestic trader could settle their import and export with Indian rupees.
It's an arrangement whereby foreign entities can settle cross-border trade payments in rupees.
And this move is taking the INR global is very good deal because it is set to trade directly with Russia without depending on the American bank. So one side, this could push us to new horizon of world trade with Russia, Iran and Venezuela. On other, this move could be destroy relation with both US and Europe. So this is not just a major move to economics standpoint but also for the geopolitical standpoint. So the question over here is, what is the RBI's strategy behind bringing this system? How will this help us to trade with Russia and Iran? In spite of the Western opposition, how will this help economy of India? And most importantly, what are the study material to help you to understand this system better? The first thing you need to understand, why is RBI suddenly allowing the international trade to be settled in INR? Well, this is because when Russia invaded Ukraine, the American sanction removed Russia something called the SWIFT network. And this has brought several trade challenges for India and many other countries. Now to understand this RBI's strategy, we first have to understand how is the existing SWIFT network work and how have the US and Europe very cleverly bully the world trade with sanction in the name of world peace. So let's understand how does the SWIFT network work. The SWIFT network usually involved in 6 different entities. These are Indian Trader, Indian Bank, American Bank 1, American Bank 2, Foreign Bank and Foreign Trader. Now the highlight over here is Indian Bank have an account in American Bank 1 where it has money in dollars. Similarly, the Foreign Bank account in American Bank 2, let's assume the Sri Lankan Bank have an account in American Bank 2 where again they will store in their money in US dollars. This is because only American bank hold US dollar. This is the reason why you will see that almost all banks in the world have an account with US bank where they have their money stored in dollars. So let's say Tata wants to import minerals worth of 1 crore rupees from Sri Lanka. So what Tata would do is they would give the Indian bank 1 crore Indian rupees and ask them to pay the same amount in the US dollar to Sri Lankan trader account in the US. So now that Indian bank has 1 crore rupees in its Indian account, it would send a message to its dollar account in America. You send 1 crore worth of dollars Sri Lanka's bank's dollar account in the US. In this case, assuming 80 rupees to the dollars, to exchange rate $125,000 would be transferred from the Indian account to the US to Sri Lankan account in US. And now the Sri Lankan bank has $125,000 in the US account. It would pay the Sri Lankan trader equivalent of $125,000 if its account in Sri Lanka. So assuming the exchange rate to be 350 between dollars and Sri Lankan rupee, the Sri Lankan bank would pay 4 crore 37 lakh 50,000 Sri Lankan rupees to the Sri Lankan trader's account. Here, as you can see, this system requires a lot of communication between different banks. It seems a lot of calculation to be done to fluctuation in exchange rate, and more importantly, it requires complex network of thousands of banks in across the world. Therefore, it is managed by highly sophisticated messaging called the SWIFT network is very tightly controlled by the US and Europe. And the catch you hear is that more than 50% of international trade are done through the SWIFT messaging system alone. So the question is, what is the problem with this system and why is the RBI tried to build an alternative? Well, there are 3 major problems with this system. Firstly, since this entire system is controlled by the Europe and US, if they do not like you, they will just impose sanction, cut you off from the SWIFT network. So in short, they will not let you trade with the SWIFT system. This is what the West do to Iran. Secondly, not letting you trade could be acceptable. But since US has controlled all the country's dollar account, they could be freeze your money that is kept in their US bank account. And this is what happened to Russia, where in after the Ukraine invasion, 300 billion Russian foreign reserve have been frozen in spite of having 300 billion US dollar. Russia cannot use its own money to trade. And lastly, the system is very costly. Since all foreign entities involved in this system take a commission, the cost of transferring money itself costs you anywhere between 1 to 5%. So on a transfer of 120 crore in the bank added 3% exchange rate margin, that means they would charge you 3.6 crore rupees just of the exchange rate. So all of these put together, even if India wants to trade with Russia, even though we do not have anything to do with Russia-Ukraine invasion, just because of West do not like it, we are unable to trade with Russia. With is what even worse, it's not like an European stop trade with Russia. They realized if they do not get Russian gas, their economy will fail. So you know that they have made exceptions such that some Russian account will allow to operate. Do that European can still use Russian gas and at the same time be the moral police of the world. This is how the West has using so-called diplomacy to handle their country's trade in the name of moral policing and world peace. And this is where, ladies and gentlemen, RBI's moves comes. In years where India is come up with its alternative system to bypass the system, still do business with foreign countries. They did by allowing international trade be done in Indian currencies. Now, if you look the RBI's notification, they say that this can be done through something called Vostro Account. So the question over here is, what is the Vostro Account? How will this transaction actually happen and is executed? How will it benefits India? Well, to understand this system, let's say Russian company wants to trade with an Indian guy named Akshay Kumar, and he want to do that without SWIFT system. So now the Russian company will have Russian bank account money stored rubles, and this Russian bank will also have an account in India where they would store the money in Indian rupees in Indian bank. And this account what is called as Vostro account. So basically it's a bank's bank account held by a foreign bank. In this case, Russian bank held in the Indian bank. So now if Akshay Kumar wants to import oil from a Russian company, here's how it will work out. Firstly, Akshay Kumar pays 5 crore Indian rupees to Russian bank account in the Indian bank, which means the Vostro account will get 5 crore Indian rupees. Then the Russian bank has 5 crore Indian rupees in its Indian account. Assuming the exchange rate of 1.5%, the Russian bank will use its account in Russia to pay the oil trader converted sum of 3.3 crore ruble. That is how the Russian trader will get 3.33 crore ruble in his account. Now remind you, this will also involve the commissions from both the Indian and the Russian bank. In reality, he would get 3.33 crore ruble minus commission charges in this account. Similarly, this Vostro will also used for exports. So let's say a Russian company want to import tea from India. So the Russian company would pay 100,000 Russian ruble in the Russian bank. Then since the Russian bank has Indian rupees stored Vostro account in India, that Vostro account would pay 1,50,000 to the Indian tea company. This is again assuming the exchange rate of 1.5 for simplification of calculation. So just like last time, the commission will be deducted on both sides and the remaining amount will be transferred. This is how the transactions are accepted to change format once the system is brought into play. Now the question over here is, if this system is brought into play, what are the advantages that India will enjoy? Well, here we got two game-changing advantages and one big threat that is involved in acting the system. First advantage will be that we will do trade with Russia, which is one of our biggest trade partner, with the trade of $13 billion. And considering the condition of Russian trade right now, we would get a goods at a much cheaper cost. Secondly, it's not just Russia, but we could start trading with other countries that have been sanctioned by the United States. This includes critical players like Venezuela and Iran. And the fun fact is here is that these countries had already showed interest to using this kind of system. So that's pretty good. Cherry on the cake over here is that this list is also includes the one and only United Arab Emirates. So this system will help us a lot in terms of decreasing the dependence on dollars. It will help us a lot in protecting the trade with whims and fancies of the West. And most importantly, it will ease the pressure on our exchange rate as of now. And lastly, the biggest threat to the US is that we are literally challenging the dominance of Uncle Sam's dollars. So obviously, does United States will definitely not be happy about it. So don't be surprised if the move is taken back or if United States threatens to impose sanction on India. Because remind you our bilateral trade with US at 119.42 billion US dollars. So here is that we might face some trouble. This is all that you need to know about the RBI's notification, its functioning and its geopolitical implication. And this brings me to last part, which is I give you the PDF of this video at CSE Educator official Telegram.